Hi friends, it's Deanna here today, and I am super excited about today's sew. Today we're sewing the Boho Spirit dress, and this is a beautiful dress. I love it. We're using a new technique of shearing, so we're going to be doing that together. And also we're using it, this is a woven pattern, which I have this fantastic fabric right here. It's beautiful, and I am so excited to use it because I know most of our patterns are made of knit, and this one isn't, so I am super excited to just go ahead and sew it together and show you how really it isn't even that hard. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we get started though, let me remind you about our Fun Fan giveaway of $50 Ellie and my gift certificate, and all you have to do is subscribe to our channel and comment below, and you are entered for our giveaway, which we do monthly. So go ahead and enter because you could be our next month's winner. So, all right, but first things first, I already have my pattern all cut out and ready to go. I am going to be doing the short sleeve version, but I am going to show you how you would attach the bell sleeve on. Now the bell sleeve is you cut it on the double fold. So if you have questions about that, please check out our video that talks about how to cut fabric, and it shows you just exactly how you can cut on the double fold so you can create that bell sleeve, which is beautiful. And first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our bodice. So I've got my bodice, and we got two pieces. We've got the front and our back, and we're gonna go ahead and attach on one side. So we're gonna grab both of our bodice pieces. I'm kind of finding which one it is. These are my sleeves. Here's my other bodice piece, and we're gonna put them right sides together, and we're gonna sew at that raw edge. Okay, so when we're sewing knits, we can sew at our 1/2 inch allowance for sewing, or we can do, 1/4 inch seam allowance, or you always want to finish it though. So if you want to do just a straight stitch and then a zigzag stitch on the inside, or you can do your serger. So you just want to make sure that it is finished on the raw edges so it's not going to fray on you, because you got to remember this non-stretch fabric sometimes frays. So you got to make sure that it's not going to fray on you once you've already made your garment. So we're only though going to be sewing one side. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, so once you've sewn that bodice together at one end, we're gonna go ahead and steam it. I like steaming because I feel like it gives me a nice flat seam. After we do that, we're going to hem the top of our bodice and our sleeves. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold. Now, this is a woven. Usually with a knit, you don't have to do a double fold because a knit won't fray. But with a woven, you want to do a double fold. So we'll fold 1/4 inch down and then 1/4 inch down again. And that is what we'll do. And then we will go over to our sewing machine and top stitch at 1/8 for our hem. So we'll do that for our bodice top and for our sleeves. I also wanted to go ahead and mention that if you're doing your short sleeve, if you're not adding the bell at the bottom, then you can go ahead and hem the top and the bottom at the same time. So if you want to hem your top side and your bottom, you can go ahead and do that if you're not doing the bell. Now if you're doing the bell sleeve, you're going to attach it to the bottom so you don't have to do both. So I'm going to hem both of them. So let's go ahead and fold and hem. You're folding down to 1/4 inch to the wrong side, and then you're going to fold down another 1/4 inch right over that. Once your fabric has been folded over and a 1/4 inch and a 1/4 inch, we're gonna go ahead and hem it. Once your bodice has been hemmed, we're going to prep for our shearing. You're going to need to grab your bobbin And we're going to thread it with elastic thread. So as you can see right here, this is the kind I'm using. It's elastic. And this is just going to be threading your bobbin, and that's it. So what I did is I went ahead and looped it. This is my other side. And then I just wound the bobbin slightly. I did not pull on it. I did it by hand, softly. Okay, I'm gonna trim this other side. Doesn't need to be there. And and so now there it is. Now I'm gonna need more than this. This was just a little bit that I had on there already from last time I did it. But I will add more later. I'm gonna remove my bobbin case. I am using a Brother GX37 to show you this on, but I'll show you the settings that I'm gonna change in the machine as well. So I'm just going to put my bobbin in as I usually would, and threaded. Oops. And now I want the thread that is on the top to be the same color that I'm going to want to show obviously on my top. The back you won't be able to really see. Now I'm going to show you what the settings are on my machine. Okay, so I'm going to manually change the tension on my machine. And you can put it between a 6 or a 7. I found that mine works best at about almost a 7. And if you can look at your machine manual to see how you can change that. Some of the automatic ones, you might not be able to change it. So you might have to just bypass the tension disc to be able to do this. Then I'm going to change my stitch length to about a 4. So it's a pretty long stitch, and it is just a straight stitch. So I'm using just number 2 straight stitch on this sewing machine, and I'm going to go and do it. All right, so here's my sleeve, and I'm going to show you on my sleeve first, but we're going to do the same thing on the bodice. Before we get started, we need to mark our fabric. I am going to use a ruler to mark it, and then you can use some kind of erasable pen. Like this is an air erasable pen. This is a marking pen. This is when with heat it erases, because I'm going to mark my fabric on the actual the front side of my fabric, because that's where I'm going to be sewing, so I want to be able to see it. So you want to use something that's going to come off. You can either use also washable markers would work just as well if you know you're going to wash the dress. But if you're giving it to somebody else, it's probably best to use something that it's going to fade out. So like I bought this new pen, you know, if you know me, you know I don't usually have all the fancy tools, but here it is. Okay, so we're gonna, from the top, we're gonna go and start down from the top. We're gonna do 1/2 inch from the top. So we're gonna see where our seam is. We're gonna go 1/2 inch, and we're just gonna kind of mark it on our bodice. Or if you have like a nice ruler that you can measure out 1/2 inch, just mark your 1/2 inch all the way down. And then from then on, if you want to mark your lines, you can mark them either 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch down to about, with the sleeve, you're going to go all the way down to 1/2 inch from the sleeve, so from the bottom. But on your bodice, you want to go all the way down. I mean, from the sleeve, you're going to go all the way down to like that last line. On your bodice, you're going to go all the way down, leaving a whole inch at the bottom that it's not sheared. So we're going to go ahead and get started. My fabric actually is great because I don't know if you can tell, I don't know if you can tell here, but you can really tell when you're sewing it. There are these like imaginary lines. I don't know if you can see like how there's a line through these flowers. Anyway, if I measure from this line to this line, it's about 1/2 inch. So that's perfect for me because you know what? I don't have to line my fabric. I'm just going to go by the imaginary line and I'm going to go through it. Now I know that my fabric is not completely straight in some spots because this fabric is really hard to cut. But it will even out because it is pretty even for most parts. So I think it's going to be great. So I'm going to use that. And so I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and we're going to start sewing. Make sure that your lines are marked where you can see them. That way it'll help you create a better look on your top. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to do it to both sleeves and to our bodice. All right, I am winding more of my bobbin. Actually, I decided to just go ahead and do that because I don't want to have to stop every 2 seconds. So all I'm doing is I'm just slightly going in there. I'm not stretching it. I'm just putting it in there on my bobbin. And then I'm going to go ahead and just slide it on there. Get it all ready. Get it all ready to go. All right, we're ready to start. And again, we're going to start a 1/2 inch away from our seam allowance, from our hem. And it is actually, let's just go ahead and do it. All right, so now remember, you're a 1/2 inch away from the edge, and we're sewing it up. And there it is. We're gonna go about 1/2 inch to a quarter inch to a 1/2 inch down, and we're gonna keep going all the way down and sew those lines. When we're done, we'll give it a good steam, and that will help the elastic kind of gather up and give it that really cool shearing look. So let's keep going. Okay, I want to give you a tip, because I started to sew mine and I got really frustrated at the fact that my sewing machine wasn't gathering it correctly as it's done it before. I've done it before and it's worked, and for some reason it wasn't working. And then I looked at the back of my sleeve, and I noticed something. Do you see that? This wiggly, zigzaggy, whatever's going on up here, and look at how straight it is down here. You want it to be straight. This is the tension on your sewing machine. What happened was, when I put my bobbin in, I didn't make sure that my bobbin went right through where it tells the tension. So it wasn't on right. So you need to make sure that your bobbin is on right, so that your shearing ends up looking just like you want it to. Do you see the difference between the top is pretty straight, and then the bottom is where I was able to do the really nice shearing? So now that you know that, I wanted to mention that to you, because that way it doesn't happen to you as well. All right, let's go ahead and keep going. All right, sleeve number 1 is done. We're gonna give it a good steam in a minute, and it's gonna look great. I'm gonna keep going with my other sleeve and my bodice. Time to change the bobbin, to thread more bobbin. Okay, so we're almost done with this bodice. Look at that, it's looking so gorgeous. And I'm gonna go down all the way to 1/2 inch before this is done. I'm gonna go ahead and thread some more bobbin and finish up, and then we'll continue on with this beautiful dress. Once you're done shearing, if your shearing still doesn't look as sheared as you'd want it to, you can go back over the bodice with your iron and steam it, and it will kind of even shrink up a little bit more. Remember, at the bottom of the dress, you're gonna leave 1 inch at the bottom unsheared, where you're going to go ahead and attach your bodice, so you can give it a good steam. I've got my sleeves done and my bodice. Now, if you are doing the other sleeve, not the one I'm doing, I'm going to show you in a minute. You would have your bell sleeve, and you would attach it to the end of the sleeve once we put it together. But we're going to first go ahead and grab our bodice, and we're going to put them right sides together right here at the raw edge. And we're going to go ahead and sew those raw edges together. And we're going to do the exact same thing for our sleeves. Now, if you did not backstitch when you were doing your shearing, you want to make sure that you catch all those threads in there when you're stitching your fabric together. Again, I will say the same thing for the sewing the bodice together on this side, that you want to do your straight stitch if you want to use a straight stitch, but then you want to finish those raw edges. You don't want to leave them unfinished. I'm going to do the same thing for my sleeve, and we're going to go ahead and sew it on. I'm going to go ahead and sew it on my serger. Now that our bodice is sewn together, we can go back over our sewing machine. What I like to do with these tails is I like to go ahead and fold them right over my seam and go ahead and sew them. But since we're going to be attaching sleeves, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold them down right here. And when I attach my sleeve, I'm just going to go run over it when I attach, you know, right over it, like when I'm running over my sleeve. I'm going to grab my, this is my side seam. I'm going to grab my sleeve and I'm going to put that side seam of my sleeve also right on top of that side seam right there. And I'm going to put them right on top of each other and pin. And then I'm going to sew with my sewing machine, just straight stitch 1 inch from the top. So I'm going to go down 1 inch and just sew them together right there. And I'm going to do that for both sleeves. I'm going to sew down 1 inch right there, just a straight stitch. And I'm going to catch these tails in there as I'm sewing them down. All right, now that we are pretty much basically done with our bodice, we're going to grab our skirt. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab our back skirt and we're going to meet up our 2 front panels, right sides together to the sides of the back skirt. And we're going to pin and sew. So I've got my front panel. One side of my front panel is touching this side. And then I'm going to put the other side of the front panel touching the other one, the raw edges together. So as you can see, here's my front, and then I'm gonna put the other one on the other side. And we're going to go ahead and pin it, and then we're gonna go ahead and sew them together. Let's go ahead and sew it. Once our skirt front and back have been sewn together, we can go ahead and hem. We wanna hem these, the sides that are gonna be overlapped together, so we can go ahead and hem the sides and also the bottom of the skirt. And we want to do a 1/4 inch and then another 1/4 inch fold for that as well. So let's do that. Now once we have sewn our skirts together, we're going to go over to our sewing machine and do a basting stitch, a long straight stitch on our sewing machine, so that then we can go ahead and gather our skirt. All right, so once we've gone ahead and hemmed that skirt bottom, we're going to attach, we're going to go ahead and actually, and then when we've already done our gathering stitch, we're going to go ahead and make sure we gather our skirt, the width of our bodice, our back, and then we're going to do the same for the front. Now the front, we're going to overlap 4 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and gather at the back, the width of the bodice back. Now remember, I know right now it's sheared, so you can't really see how big it is. So you got to make sure that it's going to be, it's the straight. You're not talking about the width of the shearing. You're talking about when it is straight, because you're going to sew that together. So I'm going to go ahead and gather a little bit, and then I'm going to match up those seams from the bodice and the dress. I'm trying to catch my, over here, my gathering stitch so I can gather it. And then we're going to overlap and create like that circle. I guess it's not a circle, it's a waist. And then we're going to attach it to the skirt. So first we're going to go ahead and gather the skirt so it's like the width, and then we're going to go ahead and overlap. So let me keep gathering a little bit more. So now my gathers are pretty equal to my bodice. I'm going to grab my front and I'm going to fold it over, and I am going to overlap them together 4 inches. So I'm going to measure from this from one edge, sorry, not raw, because we already hemmed it, from one edge to where my other edge is, we're going to overlap them 4 inches. So there's 4 inches. We're going to overlap right there, and we're going to pin, and then we can go back in. And if you want to go ahead and baste those together, you can go ahead and do that, baste that together first, that overlap, so that when you go ahead and attach it to your bodice, it doesn't come apart. So you can go ahead and do that. You know how I am. I don't like to baste anything, so I'm just gonna go for it. We're gonna grab our bodice, which fell on the ground, and I'm going to turn it so that the right sides are touching the right side of my bodice. You can go ahead, actually, before I do that, let me go ahead and do this. You can go ahead and quarter your bodice. Grab those two seams and go to the front, and then do the same for the back, and then do the same for the skirt. Let's do that. I like to go ahead and quarter them. That way when we put them together, I can really see what is the front and what is, where I'm pinning. So I'm pinning it right at the right areas. So the side seams, we're gonna pin those side seams together. And then we're gonna pin all the other quarters that we've got together, and we're gonna sew, and we're almost done with our dress. I am so excited. This is such a beautiful dress. I love this fabric. I just want to make sure that I'm putting it on the right one because it looks, here it is. Such a beautiful dress. I love this fabric, and shearing really wasn't that hard. It's just really doing lines. As long as you can get your sewing machine in the correct setting that it needs to be on, then it's super easy once you get started. Here it is. So it's in between the two pins, and I want to make sure that I'm grabbing the two layers, the front and the back skirt. Well, the front skirt, the two front skirts, and pin. So now if you want to pin a little bit better, so your gathers are nice and even, you can go ahead and pin a little bit better. And then we're going to go over to our sewing machine and sew that right sides together all the way around. All right, our dress, our beautiful, beautiful dress is finished. Here's that gorgeous slit. I can't wait to show it to you. I'll try it on so you can see it, and I'll post a picture. Please comment, like, share, subscribe to our channel if you haven't. Let me know if you have any questions about anything that I did. Please let me know what you think about the shearing. Was it easy? Was it hard? Was it what you imagined? Did you think it was going to be harder than it really was? Because I know I did. I was super scared to try this dress when I first did it, and then I'm not looking back because I love it, and I'm gonna do this shearing to pretty much every one of my woven fabrics that I have because I love it. It is actually super easy once you get the hang of it and you make sure that your bobbin is right, your settings are right on your machine. You can do it. I can't wait to see what you make. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Comment, like, share, subscribe to our channel. Come share your creations with us. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.